to the latest episode of the Crypto Strategies Show. It's Sunday evening here in Brisbane, Australia, and I'll start it off by just covering a few of the latest news topics that have come across my desk this week. Starting off, well, obviously it's been the 1 year anniversary of Bitcoin Cash on August the 1st, just a few days ago now. On this day, Bitcoin Cash meetups all around the globe where people were gathering to celebrate getting Bitcoin back on the original roadmap as outlined in the white paper, because obviously it had been hijacked by a for-profit company known as Blockstream. And in celebration of this, a lot of Bitcoin Cashers were sending out celebratory transactions. So using scripts, they were able to pump the transaction count up to about 687,000 transactions on August the 1st. Now, this actually proved that on-chain scaling is indeed possible, because this actually broke a Bitcoin record for the most transactions in one day. Prior to that, the record was held by Bitcoin Core, and in December last year it achieved only 490,000 transactions. But when this happened, the entire network became congested, and as the mempool became full of transactions waiting to be processed, the fees went up to $55 plus on average. Now, when Bitcoin Cash did its nearly 700,000 transactions on August the 1st, the fees, the average fee went down. It went down to about half of what it was the previous day, to 0.0037 of a US dollar. That's pretty incredible. So it literally proves that the entire narrative that Bitcoin is broken, it can't scale on-chain, it's proven false already. So hopefully more people start waking up to this and getting on board with Bitcoin Cash soon. Now, this is actually 14,908 times cheaper than Bitcoin Core at its peak in December last year, when it had the most transactions processed in one day. Moving on now, an exciting new application was released this week for Bitcoin Cash called Pixel Wallet, and this application, which is just on Android at the moment as far as I've seen, it promises to send encrypted Bitcoin Cash transactions through an image. So I will be investigating this further in the coming days, and I'll make a dedicated video on this topic, just experimenting with it and testing it out for myself. But it does sound pretty interesting, similar to Cointext, I guess. But you know, these kind of applications weren't being developed last year on Bitcoin Core. They're now happening on Bitcoin Cash pretty regularly now. This cool new tech. So yeah, I'll check it out later this week. Another thing that I thought was interesting, Kim Kardashian now owns Bitcoin, and she posted it out to her 115 million followers on Instagram. So Bitcoin's getting a lot of exposure there among the mainstream. In Brisbane this week, there's been a few things going on. So we had our Bitcoin Cash meetup on the 1st of August, obviously, and our meetup, we had a lot of new members turn up. So we explained to them why Bitcoin Cash is really Bitcoin, send around Bitcoin Cash amongst ourselves, and also pay for food and drink at the venue in Bitcoin Cash. And we sent 19 transactions in total, which totaled around 280 Australian dollars, and that was pretty good for maybe a group of 15 people max. So not everyone there obviously spends, but those of us who do spend multiple times, and bought everyone beers and food. So yeah, it was really a great success. And if you want to compare that to say past Brisbane Bitcoin and blockchain meetups that we've had here, I think the previous record was something like 9 transactions only. So this is just blown it out of the water. It's great to see that our smaller community is able to use Bitcoin as cash a lot more effectively than some of these bigger groups. Also in Brisbane this week, so as many are probably aware, we are home to the first cryptocurrency friendly airport here. And well, I was looking through their website. The company TravelbyBit has a website, flybybit.com. And I went there this week, and to my surprise, Bitcoin Cash was actually the #1 most used cryptocurrency on their platform there. So I posted this out. Bitcoin Cash was at like 42% of the total usage, and then Bitcoin Core was at like 40.5%. And then things like Litecoin were in the 16 range, I believe, and Ethereum and Dash were like 3% and 1%. So Bitcoin Cash was outright winner there. And as I posted this out, obviously it went pretty viral. That's pretty big news, right? Later that day, I checked that website again because some Bitcoin Core troll was replying to me, and he said that, how did you fake this data? It's different now. So I went and had a look, and sure enough, they had changed the data on their website to now show the amount of transactions instead of the total value of like each coin's transactions. And obviously they did this because they have a track record of being anti-Bitcoin Cash, and I suspect there may be some kind of backroom deals with people like Charlie Lee of Litecoin, and maybe even Blockstream themselves, because they've been pretty vocal with their support of Lightning Network. And yeah, this totally flipped the pie graph that was on the website, and it now showed Bitcoin Cash being at only 16%, while Bitcoin Core and the others were pretty big, because this metric can be easily gamed by sending smaller, lower value transactions regularly. So on the list there, that was the data set, there were some Litecoin transactions for like $1 or $2, whereas there had been some big Bitcoin Cash ones. Like obviously someone's gone there and he's buying his mates a meal or beers, and the transactions were like $100. So that was very deceptive of them. And when called out on this, they ended up putting both pie graphs side by side. That was at the end of the day. That was the final result. And next day, I thought it was all over, but I went and had a look again. And they had actually manipulated the data set itself and removed these bigger Bitcoin Cash transactions in order to make it not look good, because it was still looking pretty good on these two charts side by side. And actually, someone I know went there the night before and actually spent a bit, so it buffed it up a little bit more even. But yeah, they took out the big $100 transactions for Bitcoin Cash to manipulate it further. Called them out again, and now they've changed it again. So the data set where these pie charts are generated from has now been expanded somehow to include more transactions. On the first day, I took note of what was there, and it was only around 32 transactions, but now it's showing like 70 and beyond. So there have been a few new ones since then, but still there are some transactions that have just come out of nowhere, and they're all Bitcoin and Litecoin ones to buff that up over Bitcoin Cash. Oh well, they can do what they want to do because they're their own business, but there's been mainstream news reports on the manipulation now, so they've been exposed, and customers and other people can form their own opinion of what's happened there. So that's basically it for the major news stories that I thought were important this week. I will now go over to the price charts and have a look at BTCUSD, Bitcoin Cash charts, and also discuss where the market is heading at this point in time in regards to altcoins. I think it's been 2 weeks now since I last updated on the charts by video, but not too much has really gone on beyond what I was expecting. So in that last video, we were just talking about how a inverted head and shoulders formation completed right here, and price had been trending upwards, and we were looking at resistance along this diagonal trend line coming down through here. I think I said I'm not getting bullish unless there's a clear breakout from that, and then you could start thinking about this possibly returning to a bull market. But until then, I'm still bearish. The Bitcoin price is still in bear market mode. Now, what ended up happening was it wasn't a good idea to be longing this here, because as you can see, what ended up happening was a fake out there, and going in on the smaller time frames. The reason why I wouldn't have longed there is because we just had a bullish pattern complete, right? The inverted head and shoulders, and then we had a bit of a bull trend. So you don't normally go long at the end of a bull trend like that, right? Anyway, what ended up forming over a few days was this pennant formation here, and it could have gone either way, but you don't trade on a prediction, you trade in reaction to price movement. So as this broke downward, you should have entered a short position, and I probably would have closed any shorts at this point in time. You can just trade that small move, but now we're looking at finding some support in this zone here, which hasn't quite gotten to yet. So the baseline of that inverted head and shoulders was resistance. It will now act as support. And also we've got a trend line coming up through here on the diagonal level. So I think what we may see here is a bit more sideways. So for the bulls, this is the last chance at any kind of return to a bull market here, at least in the short term. So it would have to bounce off this level, and then we get a clear breakout beyond this current resistance that we just got rejected from. Then things are going to start looking bullish, and we can head up towards these next horizontal levels, the first one being at 10,000, and then beyond that 12,000. But then the bearish scenario would be something like this. I think it still may bounce at this point around this zone, but I think we may get one of these kind of continuation head and shoulder type deals here, which is kind of rare. But obviously this is a support level, and if that breaks, we're heading down lower towards here initially. And then, then from there, that could either hold, or what I think would be more likely in that case is this ends up breaking, and we will trend down lower to make another lower low around this kind of area here, where we've got a horizontal level at 5,000, which has been looking pretty primed to getting tested for a long time now. So, this could end up being a longer bear market period, which then starts to turn around and recover going into the start of 2019. And at that point, I think, no worries. This is going to be looking good for a new bull market at that point. But it's a long way off right now. I think the guys that have been calling, bull market in here, they're just getting ahead of themselves too much. Another Bitcoin chart was this Wyckoff accumulation phase that looked at last time. So last time it was in here, it had just completed the inverted head and shoulders, I believe. And we're starting to trend up, but now we've got the pullback, and this point is known as the last point of support. So if you look at the textbook example here, yep, it gets back up again, and we've just had this kind of area here where it gets about halfway up and then pulls back, and then it's known as the last point of support before continuing up, and then like buy the dip, mate. That's what will be happening right there. But you know, that I would want to get this clear breakout at that point. That would be my going long, with the hopes of this kind of a scenario playing out. So moving on to Bitcoin Cash against US dollars now. Going in on the smaller time frames. What we had happen after my last update, I believe, this broke out, the falling wedge in pink there, and then we found a resistance at this horizontal level. Hasn't been able to break through it, and then on the smaller time frames, there was a ascending triangle which has formed and broken down. So that has then sent the price going back down to this support here. Like, all you had to do is just connect these two lows, and we've found support there for now, but watching that closely at the moment to see if it will break down and send the price further. At that point, obviously this is the current major support level, so then we'd be having to look at other horizontal levels. So this was a major low just there. Could pop in a horizontal level on this point, and you know, that's still another $100 lower. I think it would probably at that point go even lower than that, so we would have to wait and see just how this eventuates. But yeah, with regards to Bitcoin Cash against Bitcoin though, that chart's looking a lot more easier to make a trade on. So in here, we're still inside this falling wedge, right? So it's just over the last days, it like kind of bounced a little bit off the support there, but it hasn't really followed through that far just yet. Still going to wait and see where that goes, although breaking to the upside would be a very good trade. This is nearly at the lows of April again. So we'll just have to see what happens with that too. Waiting on that trade. I got alarms set on either side. If we look to the Bollinger Band indicator on here, it's actually coming in tighter now on the 1 day time frame. So probably could expect some more sideways just trading in this zone. And then once the bands are tighter, as we're coming towards the end of this falling wedge formation, big move on the horizon. And then, you know, we've got a few horizontal levels to go through, and then this is the big one that needs to break at 0.25. Besides that, there is some information that you might want to know for altcoins if you trade them. I don't, because too time consuming and it's not worth my while. But if you go to CoinMarketCap here and then hit this button here, it's got BTC dominance. So it'll bring up a chart then with the total market dominance comparing Bitcoin and the altcoins. And there is something worth paying a bit of attention to here. Just let it load. All right, so we've got Bitcoin dominance has been rising a little bit recently, but what some people don't seem to understand is that it's actually trending down. So you can see by the graph here, it's got a high and then it makes a lower low from the previous lows, and then it makes a lower high and then again another lower low. And this could be expected, since we're trending down, this would be expected to make another lower high. Now, if you draw in like a horizontal trend line through here, you actually see that these points are lining up along there, and you could probably expect price to be rejected from that point pretty much now. You can see that's kind of stopped going up, so this could be the point in which it really starts to turn. But for altcoin buyers, you can see that every time it's reached the high, every time Bitcoin has reached the high, these altcoins then begin exploding in value. So it could be time for another alt season, as the Twitter crypto traders like to call it. So that's another thing worth keeping an eye out for in your trading. And I think that basically sums it up. The only recent move I've been doing here was a bit of a short from this pennant, but I've already closed that now. I made good enough profit. If you're wondering more about my personal strategy, I do not go and buy an asset and then sell back to US dollars. I'm always in Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash, cryptocurrency. I'm never going back to Australian dollars unless I want to cash out to buy shit. But the reason why I do that is because I believe in the long-term future of it, and then there is also less stress in worrying about, oh crap, I don't actually own any Bitcoin right now and it's going up randomly. And when should I buy back in? Is it too late? Well, if you hold Bitcoin all the time, you're just dealing with a bit of volatility, but you obviously believe in the long term of it, so it's all good. But in trading leverage on platforms like Bitmex, which is what I do, you are able to bet on the direction of price, and on these moves, like little moves going up like this and going down like that, I've bet on the direction and I've made a percentage-based profit on the amount that I've bet. So I'm actually just accumulating more and more Bitcoin, and it works really well. I've been doing it for nearly 2 years now, and had no issues whatsoever. So I think that's the best kind of trading method you can approach this market with. The price of most of these cryptocurrencies follow BTCUSD as it is anyway. So if you're just trading leverage on BTCUSD, then it can be very profitable and also save you a lot of time and energy. You don't have to manage these shit coins when you're just focusing on one or two assets. So in a video that I'll put out maybe later this week, I will do the complete Bitmex guide. If you want to go and sign up now and check it out, I've got a link in the description for 10% off trading fees for the first 6 months. So use that, and comment on this video anything that you would like to see me do, any kind of requests for tutorials or charting maybe. And yeah, like, subscribe, share the video with your friends if you found it insightful. Thanks for supporting the channel, guys. I will catch you in the next video.